Welcome back to Gerodynamics. Okay, so in the last video of what I'm going to turn into a series of videos of who am I politically, I mostly talked about where my political party allegiance lies. So I'm mostly a libertarian. I'm in the Libertarian Party. I am, if I'm forced to choose between Republicans and Democrats, usually I'm going to choose a Republican or the Republican position. However, sometimes I pick the Democrat or a Democrat position because I'm not always going to align with the Republican Party. I was just kind of, going over that. In this video, I would like to talk about how I believe that the political parties should not be a part of the system. Political parties, I think, are a right that people have as part of their freedom of speech. I think they should be able to be a member of a political party. I think political parties should be able to have a voice in their positions. I don't think that should be illegal, but they shouldn't have any power. They shouldn't have any power over the electoral process. They shouldn't be listed on ballots. It should be a separate power that they have where, they can go around and they can, gather members and they can decide who from their political party, if they want to just pick one person to be on petitions to be on the general ballot. So I could see that. I could see, the Republicans saying, hey, we only want to put this person on the ballot. So if you're a Republican and you're not this person, you shouldn't be putting yourself on the ballot, that sort of thing. But when someone like me goes into a voting booth and sees a list of candidates, it shouldn't say, Donald Trump, Republican, Joe Biden, Democrat, Joe Jorgensen, Libertarian. It should just say Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Joe Jorgensen, and so on and so forth. And then they should have no power over the debate process. They should have no power over how many people are allowed on the ballot. It should be a completely separate thing. It's like a union, where people can join the union if they want to join the union, but the union shouldn't be forced on everybody. That's what I believe about unions too, by the way. I'll probably do a video on unions and how I think unions are a good thing in the private sector, not so much in the public sector. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic altogether. But the political parties need to have their power drawn back. We need to eliminate that. I think if we didn't have political parties, we would have a lot better candidate selection. When you look at 2020 and, really the only two choices were Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the majority of people didn't want either, from what I could tell. And so, so when you look at it, you're like, well, the majority of people voted for Joe Biden. No, the majority of people who voted for Joe Biden. The majority of people didn't vote, is my understanding. And I may need to look into that to see if that's exactly right. But a large percentage of the population chose not to vote, even if they were able to, because they didn't want to vote for either one of them. What I chose to do was I chose to vote for Jo Jorgensen because I thought she was the best candidate on the ballot. But I didn't want either Donald Trump or Joe Biden to be president. And in 2016, I didn't want Donald Trump or Hillary to be president. So I voted for Johnson. So I think if people were able to go into the voting booth and know they weren't forced to choose between two candidates they didn't like, that we would have more people voting in our elections. And the election results would be a lot different. We would have seen Bernie Sanders on the ballot, I do believe, because what he did was he ran in the Democratic primary. He didn't win the Democratic primary. Questionable, but they say he didn't win. That's a whole nother thing altogether. He ran in the Democratic primary. They chose Hillary, and then they chose Joe Biden. And in both of those cases, I think if political parties weren't such a big part of the election process, he would have been on the general ballot. He would have been one of the major choices that people would have had. And if Bernie Sanders had been on the ballot, what would have happened? Because there would have been people who voted for Joe Biden who would have voted for Bernie Sanders instead. And as weird as it sounds, I think some people who voted for Donald Trump would have voted for Bernie Sanders. I think some people who voted for Donald Trump would have been more empowered to vote for Jo Jorgensen because there was a fourth option to the left. So they would have felt like, well, if some of these people are going to be voting for Bernie Sanders that would have voted for Joe Biden, then I can feel confident in voting for Jo Jorgensen because I believe she would be the better candidate. In the end, would we have gotten a different result? I'm not sure. Biden may still have won. If that had been an option, would Donald Trump have eked it out because he was pretty consistently getting about, I would say, 30% of the vote? Would that have been enough for him to have gotten a plurality of votes? And that's something that would need to be addressed is, if we do this and we're not doing, such a focus on the two-party system, plurality voting may become a bigger aspect of the presidential election rather than majority. So you're not going to get the majority of votes. Well, right now it's the Electoral College anyways, but the Electoral College typically aligns with the majority of voters. So on occasion it doesn't, and that's okay. But typically speaking, the Electoral College aligns with the majority of voters. And so in this situation, would someone, get they would be more likely that we'd be seeing people win the Electoral College that only have a plurality of votes, which means that they had the most votes, but not necessarily over 50%. So these are some things that we would need to address if we were to move strictly to a no-party system. But I believe that's the way it was originally intended. The government, the country immediately moved into political parties. So there is a desire to have them, and that's a whole nother, that's a whole reason why I wouldn't want to make it illegal. The people in the country want political parties, but I think that you would find that a large portion, if not a majority of people, would like for the political parties to have less power over the electoral process. Get them out of the debates, get them out of deciding who ends up being the main candidates on the ballot. And once we do that, then I think we would have a system where we would have a higher voter turnout. People would be able to vote their conscience. They wouldn't just be voting for the better of two bad choices. I think that's the way to go. So while I align more with the Libertarian Party, I would even like to see them not have that power. But since we're in this current system where political parties do have that kind of power, they are on the ballots, they are overseen. I would like to see more political parties get some recognition, maybe expanded out to at least 4, so that we have at least 4 candidates on the main stage of the debate. And we basically say, we want 4 candidates on the main stage of the general election debate, and those 4 candidates are just the top 4 polling candidates around the country at that time. That's kind of what the Republican Party did back in 2016 for their primaries. So I could see it working in the general election debates. But basically, you started out the debates in the 2016 Republican primaries with every candidate up there. And, they all only got a short amount of time to be able to talk, only a couple of questions, and you didn't get to hear too much from them. But as the primary moved along and you started seeing people coalesce their support behind certain candidates, then they started whittling down the number of people on the debate stage, saying, well, this person's getting less than 1% of the polling, so we're gonna go ahead and remove them from the debate stage. Maybe something more along that say, hey, these are all the people who have done all they need to do to get themselves on the general election ballot. And so we'll start with having the debate with everybody on the stage, and as polling starts coming in, then we'll go ahead and we'll say, okay, so we had 10 people. The two bottom polling people will not be in the second debate. They'll still be on the ballot, but they wouldn't be in the second debate. And maybe in the end we do work it down to 2, right? So we say the top 2 people polling are the only 2 candidates that are in the final debate, and do it like that. And then you could in the end have that this is this candidate and this is this candidate. These are the 2 candidates that are most likely to win the election. And then people who want that choice, want that ability to be able to say what's the best of the 2 candidates, they would still get that. And I'm just kind of like working this through my head as I'm going through this video, and I like that idea. I like that concept of maybe starting the debate process with every candidate that's going to be on the ballot, and just kind of working our way down from there. What do you guys think? Does that sound like a good idea, to try to like limit the power of the political parties? As long as we have political parties, which, I would rather we didn't have them in the debate, an election process. I would rather they were eliminated from that. But while they are a part of it, even though Republicans and Democrats are the 2 biggest parties, maybe we could start our debates with every candidate, and then kind of whittle our way down. And the last debate would probably be between the Republican and Democrat, but at least people would have had a chance to hear from these other candidates. So there you go. Two possible. I like to do my positions from what would be the perfect situation and what should we do in our current situation. And you'll find that through all my videos. I kind of talk that way. There's no perfect situation. But if there was, what would it be? And then what should we do in our current situation? All right, everybody, I hope you like this format. If you have any questions, or you have, or you disagree with me on this thing or that thing, or you want to, have a discussion or even a full debate, just let me know in the comments. Well, maybe we can do like a video where we talk about comments if I ever start getting them. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good day.